All right, welcome everyone to today's Explainer. We are jumping right in to look at a fantastic step-by-step tutorial that demystifies one of JavaScript's absolute most fundamental data structures. Honestly, if you are an absolute beginner just starting your coding journey, mastering this concept together is going to feel like unlocking a genuine developer superpower. And hey, if you've ever stared at a screen full of code and thought to yourself, what the heck is an array? I want to just validate that for you right now. It is a completely normal reaction. When you're first starting out, these abstract coding concepts can feel, frankly, pretty alien. But I promise you, by the end of our time together today, this is going to make perfect logical sense.
So here is our roadmap for the explainer. 1. What is an array? 2. Creating your very first array. 3. The zero-based index rule. 4. Accessing and updating data. And finally, 5. We'll look at some powerful properties and methods. Let's dive in.
Okay, section 1. What is an array? Think of it like a multi-compartment box. You know, when you're writing code, storing disconnected data inefficiently can create a massive headache. Just imagine you have 10 different pieces of data you need to store. Without an array, you'd basically have to create 10 entirely different variables. It's like having 10 separate, single boxes scattered around, each holding just one item. It's messy, it's disorganized, and it makes your code incredibly long. An array, on the other hand, is just a single variable, but it acts like a box with multiple compartments or pockets. It lets you store all those multiple values, or even other variables, inside one single, neatly organized place. It's a real game changer.
And here's your golden rule for recognizing them out in the wild. The universal visual cue for an array in JavaScript is the square bracket. Whenever you see those two square brackets facing each other, JavaScript is literally telling you, hey, we are working with an array here. It really is that simple.
Moving right along to section 2, creating your first array, building the foundation.
Let's actually get our hands dirty and write out the syntax. Creating an array is beautifully straightforward. You declare it just like you would any other normal variable. First, you use a keyword. Now, traditionally, this was var. Second, you give your variable a name. Let's just call it myArray. And third, you set it equal to empty square brackets. Boom, you've just created an empty array. Now, a quick pro tip for you here. While older code uses var, modern ES6 JavaScript developers pretty much always prefer using let or const for better scope management. But honestly, regardless of the keyword, the structure is exactly the same.
Now, having an empty array is great, but why stop there when you already know exactly what you want to put inside it? You can actually pre-fill the array right out of the gate using what we call shorthand literal notation. You just declare the variable, open those square brackets, and literally drop your data right in, separated by commas. In this example, we've packed in the number 10, the number 20, the word hi, and the Boolean value false. It's incredibly fast, and for sure, it is the preferred way developers create arrays every single day.
And this actually brilliantly illustrates a contrast you might run into as you start reading other people's code. On the left side, we have that simple literal bracket notation we just used. But on the right, you'll see the new keyword being used, like new array 5. So what's happening there? Well, the new keyword creates a new instance of an array object. By putting a 5 inside those parentheses, you are specifically telling JavaScript, make me an array with exactly 5 empty slots. It's super useful if you need a specific size right off the bat, but as we're learning today, that literal bracket notation on the left is usually the simplest way to go just for its sheer efficiency.
All right, section 3, the zero-based index rule. How JavaScript counts. Okay, I need you to lean in for this one because it is absolutely the most counterintuitive rule. Yes, 0. If you take literally nothing else away from this explainer, remember this. JavaScript is a zero-based language. I know, as humans, we naturally start counting things at 1, but JavaScript starts counting at 0. This means their very first position, or pocket in your array, isn't index 1. No way. It is always index 0.
So let's look at that zero-based indexing in action alongside JavaScript's incredible flexibility. Take a look at the index column here. At index 0, our very first slot, we have the number 25. At index 1, we have 35. At index 2, we have the Boolean true. And down at index 3, we have the string hello. An array doesn't force you to only store numbers or only store words. They can all basically live together quite happily in different indexed pockets within that same single variable.
On to section 4, accessing and updating data, changing room assignments. So how do we actually grab that data back out? And maybe more importantly, how do we change it once it's in there?
Well, the easiest way to see what's happening inside your array is to simply peek inside using the console. By typing console.log myArray, JavaScript will just spit out the entire array for you, showing you every single value and its corresponding index. It is the perfect way to double-check that your data is sitting exactly where you think it is.
But what if you made a mistake, or the data just naturally needs to change? So the crucial point here is how incredibly easily you can update data on the fly. Let's say we want to change that Boolean value of true that was sitting right there at index 2. You just call the array name, specify your target index in square brackets, so myArray2, and use the equal sign to assign the new value, like false. With that one simple line of code, you've instantly reached into pocket number 2 and swapped out the contents entirely.
And finally, Section 5, Powerful Properties and Methods, Organizing the Building.
Because arrays are actually objects under the hood, they come with this amazing built-in toolkit, so JavaScript can essentially do the heavy lifting for you. We're going to look at 3 specific tools from this kit that developers use constantly to organize and understand their array data. We have the .length property, the .sort method, and the .reverse method. Let's break these down real quick.
First up is .length. Now notice this is called a property, not a method. It doesn't actually change anything in your array, it just observes it. By typing myArray.length, JavaScript simply counts the items inside and hands you back a number. So if you have 4 items in your array, it literally returns a 4. It is hands down the quickest way to find out exactly how much data you are holding at any given moment.
Next, we have methods. Methods are functions that actually perform actions on your array. The .sort method is a totally brilliant example of this. If you have an array full of jumbled, unsorted data, simply adding .sort to your array will automatically organize the whole shebang. If they're strings, it sorts them alphabetically from A to Z. If they're numbers, it organizes them numerically. It's an incredibly powerful tool that saves you from having to write a tedious sorting algorithm completely from scratch.
And then there's .reverse, which is honestly just as fun as it sounds. Let's say you just sorted your array from low to high. But actually, scratch that, you need it from high to low. One simple command, .reverse, will completely flip your data's current sequence backwards. The first item becomes the last, and the last becomes the first. It is so remarkably satisfying to use. Well, look at what you've achieved. You now know exactly how to build arrays, you understand the tricky zero-based indexing, you can manipulate data, and you can use built-in tools to sort and reverse your info. Mastering these basics is the exact path to professional-grade coding. But I want to leave you with a thought for your next adventure. You can build, sort, and reverse, sure. But what happens when you have an array with literally thousands of data points and you only want to find the ones that meet a very specific condition? Well, that is where advanced modern array methods like .map and .filter come into play. But we will have to save that fascinating topic for another explainer. Keep practicing your foundational arrays, have a blast experimenting, and thank you so much for learning with me today.